Hi, everybody. This is Sherri Leopold with Outside the Box with Sherri, and I am super excited today to have an amazing guest with me, Bridgett Renay, and she is just doing all kinds of amazing things. As you know, Outside the Box is actually a show where we profile people who are doing outstanding things and think outside the box on a regular basis. So welcome, Bridgett.
Thank
I've
you.
been having you here. And Bridget and I met actually in Dallas, Texas at the Run Women's Conference. Shout out to Dr. Cass. And just an incredible group of people, and Bridget was one of those. So, Bridget, I'm going to have you share a little bit about who Bridget is, where you're from, all those things, the exciting things that you're doing right now. I know you just did a wonderful one for which I'm green, and also so proud of you for participating with Lisa Nichols. So I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about who you are.
Okay, well, as you said, I am Bridgett Renay, and I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, but right now I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been here for, 25 years now. It's interesting that I can say, wow, 25 years ago, I was still an adult living, somewhere else. But I've been here for a while. Came out here because things in LA were just it was ugly. It was really ugly. So I'm like, there has got to be something more to life. And then that was what changed the trajectory of my life coming out here. Because in those 25 years, I went back into the United States Navy. And I did 24 years and retired. So I'm like,
Wow.
yay, I'm retired.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you for your service.
Oh, you are so welcome. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much. A lot of people can't say that, but I really did because of the people that I met and the things that I learned. And I also, used all of my military benefits, especially the Montgomery GI Bills. I have an undergraduate in technical communications, and I have an MBA as well.
Awesome.
And I am also a 3-time best-selling author. 2 are nonfiction. I talk a little bit about my nonfiction books because it's what got me into the fiction books. But let's see. I've been in corporate America, about 20 years as well. And the reason why I can say 24 years with the Navy and 20 years with corporate America is because I was a Navy reservist. So I was a weekend warrior.
Yeah.
Yes,
Always.
yes. And corporate America is where I thought that I would spend the rest of my life because I, just kind of worked so hard to get to the level that I was at. But as it turned out, there was something else for me. And, sometimes it comes to you, it's a God vision, but sometimes, people have to do something to you to get you, headed in that direction. And unfortunately, it was, just being disappointed by certain things that happened that got me on the road to just starting my own business. And I call that business, it's called Legacy Bridge Incorporated. And actually what I do is because of what I went through with corporate America, it is now my job to help the underserved, the undervalued, the underemployed, the underappreciated. In other words, the underdogs, with the traditional 9 to 5, who every time I talk to them, they're like, I hate my job. It's like, well, what are you doing about it? Well, what can I do? Really? What can you do?
Absolutely.
Kidding me? And that's where my business picks up. That's where, we pick up from there.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because right now I'm actually traveling and my topic is, are you living your best life? And when we met in Dallas, one of the things I heard you speak about was your program that you had instituted, because we were in a mutual mentoring program, was about the lunchtime. Remind me what it's called.
Lunch break hustler. Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking lunch break warrior, but I was close. Yes, I love that.
Oh, I like warrior better. That kind of goes with my my military, background.
Yeah.
But what that's about is that, because I help people turn their lunch break into their most profitable hour of the day. You see so many people on their lunch break doing what? Just wasting time. They're involved in, the office gossip, they're stuffing their faces with all this horrible fast food. They're not getting anything accomplished. And they're just, just really, it's a waste of time to me. And that's how I got my vision going, because I call it my Whitney Houston story. And it's because when I was, after 9/11, you know, my reserve unit was recalled back to active duty. And so I went out there to the Middle East as a patrolman, meaning that I was wearing like 30 plus, you know, pounds of gear, including, you know, 9mm and an M16. And I'm guarding the front gate, you know, so I was like, I had a little conversation with God. I said, you know, if you get me back home in one piece, guess what I'm gonna do? You know, so that's how that came about. And then when I got back to the States, I was, you know, I was so happy, but I kind of like forgot about that, you know, that little deal I had with God. But then when I would go to lunch, go into the lunch break room, these people, all the women, they were talking about Whitney Houston. And back then, Whitney Houston had just, you know, we just discovered that, you know, is she doing drugs? You know, this and that. And that was just the whole conversation. And so I said, you know what? I don't need to be involved in this. I don't know Whitney Houston. She don't care what I think about her. And so I removed myself and I said, well, let me, you know, work on my undergraduate degree. And bam, you know, a couple of years later, I had my degree. Go back into the lunch break room and they are talking about, oh, Whitney Houston married Bobby Brown. Can you believe that? I'm like, oh my God, they're still on Whitney Houston. I mean, it's unbelievable. It is just unbelievable. I'm talking a couple of years later. People, I guess they were just, she was kind of a fascinating figure. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it was interesting to gossip about her. And so I'm like, oh my God, you guys are Whitney Houston again. So I said, let me go work on my graduate degree. Got my graduate degree, got my MBA. I'm like, okay, went back into the break room. And they were like, okay, Whitney Houston died. I said, okay, well, at least that's the end of the Whitney Houston stories. I'm like, you know, I still don't want to hear it. But that's when I decided, like, I always wanted to write a book. I always wanted to be a bestseller. So I left the lunch break room and started working on my first bestseller, my first book. It's called Corporate Thugs. And there's a story behind that name, Corporate Thugs. But that became my first bestseller. And it was just, you know, after that, I did another book called LLP, Lust, Lies, and Propositions. And those two were just, you know, they was just drama. And so I'm like, you know, I'm not really helping anybody. I know there are like women who love to read that kind of drama because it takes them to like another world. Right. But that wasn't my life purpose. That was not my life purpose. So I said, well, let me go to, you know, I got to do something else. And so I realized that I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, everything that I have achieved, I've done it on my lunch break. And so I'm like, I'm just getting my hustle on. And so that's how I became the lunch break hustler. And that's my Whitney Houston story.
I love that because it's like totally not unexpected and not what you would think, but amazing that you strung all that together and that it became part of your story. But, you know, I so can understand what you're saying and if people seem stuck in the same spot, you know, because like I'll have people that'll complain about the same thing. 5 years later, they're still complaining about the same thing. You know, like Gandhi's running through my head, you know, be the change you want to see. And, you know, my gosh, the definition of insanity, keep doing the same thing and expect different results. You know, I'm like, so I'm like, that's what like resonates with me when you're saying that. I'm like, and people get so easily stuck in that. Yes. You know, I love that you wanted to give value to those people and say, hey, you can get out of this place and literally give them a pathway to that. So tell us how you transitioned, you know, and obviously you're writing, and how you moved from that corporate space into what you're doing now.
Well, I tell you, it happened because of an incident with me and like, you know, one of the supervisors, and he threw me under the bus, and I was like, wow, that it was a shock. It was so unacceptable. And you know, the thing was, I understood that I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't do anything about it. And I'm like, well, I need to start living my life because I was getting up there in age. And you know, you reach a certain age and you're like, no, this is not going to happen. This is not going to be the rest of my life. And so I got to that, you know, that point. I said, well, okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to turn my passion, you know, into profit. And that's what I did. And I I had to get myself so uncomfortable because everything I had done up until that point, I was pretty comfortable with. It's comfortable, like just writing and things of that nature. Being a part of the military, you get used to that, and the day-to-day in and outs of it. So I was comfortable going to school, getting my degree, because no one had to depend on me for anything. And so I'm like, okay, I have to make my life count. And so I got uncomfortable. I got myself very uncomfortable. And then I learned from one of my mentors is, the best way to get yourself uncomfortable is to do things that make you uncomfortable. And that's what I do for, like, say, like, my clients, students, or, what have you. I first make them uncomfortable, because in order to start your journey, the number one thing that you have to be willing to do is to tell your story. You have to tell your story, because if you don't, you're going to get stuck. And then, when you reach a certain level of success, you're going to be just always looking behind your shoulders, wondering who's going to come from your past, that monster that's going to come from your past and tell the story in their words. So I think the first thing that a person has to do is get used to, live within your story. It is your story. That history you cannot change. No one can change it for you.
The good, bad, and the ugly.
Yes, exactly. And once you put that out there, you know what? There's nothing else that can hurt you. Nothing else that can hurt you. So you get uncomfortable by first telling your story. And you also have to, get used to being your own rescue. And that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, because it is so nice to just get in your car, go to work, don't have to think about anything, because you do the same thing every day, day in and day out, but when you are your own rescue, that's a bit uncomfortable, because you don't know what's going to happen from 1 month, to the next, because you have to live with the unexpected. And then one of the biggest things is you have to get comfortable being around people who do not look like you.
Yes.
So many people like you and I, black and white. I would say, like, maybe, some years back, I would be so uncomfortable having this conversation with you. I could have it with, with the sister, with somebody else, but I would be so uncomfortable having it with you. And now I'm like, I'm just so, it doesn't scare me in the least bit. And so, you have to be willing to express yourself. So the first thing you have to do is recognize that you're going to get uncomfortable. And I say, the first thing that you should do is just tell your story, write a book and turn that book into your business, into your platform. Use it as your platform, because what a book does, it builds your brand.
Yes. And it's interesting when you said that about turning your profit or your passion into your profit, because I call that the trifecta of taking your passion and turning it into your your passion into your purpose into your passion into your purpose into your paycheck. Sorry, that's a trifecta.
I like that. Okay, I like that.
So, and that's when you said that, I was like, oh, it's totally what I love sharing, because I think it's true. People think, well, I couldn't make a living at that or whatever, and they stay in that 9-to-5 grind and spend their lunch hour in the Whitney Houston room. And like that's where they're stuck there. And part of it, they might have really amazing gifts, but they're not thinking about those gifts in terms of a way that they could share it with somebody else. And I talked the other night, and I talked about, you can monetize what you're good at. And I said, if you don't believe me, go watch one of Dr. Pimple Popper's videos. She gets paid. She makes a lot of money as a doctor, but she makes an enormous amount of money on YouTube as well.
Exactly.
I'm like, that's not an accident. And I said, if you think somebody can't make a living doing those kinds of things, it's just you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. And you have to start exploring those platforms. And, and see where people start. I think the worst thing that you can do is to look at a person and see where they're at, where they're at right now, because you can be like 20 steps behind them, but, you will eventually catch up, and people, they'll see that person, like, say, I'll see like Cassandra, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't compete with that. Even if sometimes we're on like the same platform, it's still okay. Because just like with anything, look at all the clothing designers that are out there. they're competing with each other, but still people buy different styles of clothes. You know, look at all the car makers that are out there. There's not just one. You know, there's just not one person doing the public speaking and doing all of, you know, So
yeah, and you have to take your gifts and make them yours.
You
That's the one thing. Nobody can be you. You know. And the other thing I kind of heard you say, which I think is really an important point for everybody listening, is that you have to be very careful about comparison. I often use the phrase, I'm sure you've heard it, is the comparison is the thief of joy. You cannot be joyful when you are comparing your day one to someone else's year 7.
Yes.
I think you see that a lot in public figures, and, you know, people that are successful actors and singers and different things. You didn't see when they were waiting tables for 4 years and hoping to play one song on a break at some club, you know, while they're waitressing. You know, you don't see all those things. You see the big flashy stuff. And, you know, like for us in public speaking, you know, yes, you can't compare yourself to somebody who's been speaking for many years and has, you know, really worked on their message. And you know, you have to walk your own journey.
Exactly. And just own it, make it yours. And, you know, you can just really start by going out there and finding mentors. You know, people love to mentor others. They love to share information. People love to be, you know, admired for what they know. You know, they absolutely love it. So don't be afraid to go out there and just ask a person. I remember when I was in the the Navy Reserves, I was transferred to a new unit. And so a lot of times, you know, like making rank, sometimes you don't make it the first time around, sometimes the second, sometimes, you know, it just all depends. But this one senior chief, that's an E8, and I was like a E5. And so when I found out that he made E7 the first time around and E8 the first time around, I walked up to this man and I said, Senior Chief, how can I be down with you? You know, how can I be down with you? What do you need some assistance? You know, what do you need? I need to be by your side to know how you did what you did. And I asked him to mentor me, and he mentored the hell out of me. Before the year was up, I was sailor of the quarter, I was sailor of the year for my unit, and I was junior sailor of the entire reserve center within 1 year. And so you have to find those people, you know, who you want to emulate, and just go to them and have a conversation with them. And that taught me, it's like, you know, reach out to people. I seen Cassandra on the stage, I think it was late 2015. And after hearing her speak, I said, she doesn't realize this yet, but I'm about to professionally stalk her. You know, I am going to be so down with this sister here. She just don't even know it yet. And look where I'm at now. Right now, I am on the Run Tour for 2019. And so you have to, exactly. You have to find those people and let them know that, you know, I am down with you. I want to be, you know, like you in my own way, my own style.
Right.
But you got to get out there and make some noise and let people know you're serious. And always make a promise, keep a promise.
Right.
Oh my goodness, you do that one time. Don't keep a promise one time, and that can end a professional relationship, because those pros out there, they're not playing. They are not playing.
Right. That's awesome. And, you know, and it's really good advice for anybody that's actually looking to move out into the business space or create that. I mean, we get do-overs in some things in life, and some things we don't. And hence the first time when we tried to do this interview, and I was so frustrated because I couldn't make it work. But you know what? I learned from that and decided to go a different route so that I had a better control of that, so that I don't have those issues again. And, you know, you learn sometimes the hard way with that as a result. And so, you know, it's a growth process, obviously, but I love what you said, because what you're really pushing out there is that it's very important to put yourself in alignment with those people who are where you are going. And I just shared with a group the other night about that, about how important it is about who you put in your personal and professional space, because we all drip and bleed on each other with whatever's going on. So just like you said, you put yourself into that space, and I did the same thing because it was important to me to follow that lead. As I know that, and I'm sure you as well are providing that same lead to somebody else, you know, that is looking to make a change and grow as well, because that is what we do. A hand up and it is not a hand out, you know, it goes both ways, you know. And so I'd like for you to share, just before we wrap up, I know you have some interesting and awesome things coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about what 2019 and your upcoming months are bringing for you?
Well, the most exciting thing, of course, about 2019 is being on the Run Tour, and to end that tour, you know, in Dallas, Texas, being, you know, on the same platform as Les Brown, who, you know, when I go for my morning constitutional, you know, I walk like I try to do at least a 5K, you know, 3 or 4 times a week. And I'm listening to Les Brown. And it's like, wow, all of a sudden, you know, this happens. It's like, it was just so meant to be. It just lets me know that I'm on the right course. So that's an amazing thing. And what I was doing in 2018 was kind of, you know, getting a feel for how people wanted my message. And so I put some courses on one platform, you know, just to get a feel, get some opinions. And so I'm taking them off of that platform now, because I got it exactly the way I want it, and I'm going to put it on another platform. So that's what 2019 is going to also allow me to do, because I'm, you know, I'm going to do things through online courses. I'm going to start, you know, with the online courses. And my first course is actually, it's a free course, and it's called Taking Back Your Power. You know, because so many people feel that they don't deserve, you know, to live a certain type of life. Abundance is not in their future. And so you have to learn to take back your power. And that's a free course that I'm going to have online in, you know, by the end of this year. And then the second course is the Pin, Promote, Publish, and Profit, you know, from your story. Because you got to tell your story. Even if you don't publish it, sometimes it's best to just write it out, so you can kind of remember where you started and where you're at now. You know, and then there's the, you know, entrepreneurship for the cubicle slaves. And that's what I call, you know, those traditional 9-to-5ers. I call them cubicle slaves. And I look at my platform, the Lunch Break Hustler, I am the Underground Railroad for the cubicle slave. Because the one thing that I need people to understand, you can't tell everybody your plans. You can't tell that person sitting next to you in the next cubicle what you plan on doing, because they're not ready for that. And then they know that once you get started, you're going to get so much further ahead of them. They don't want to see that. So they're going to try to block that. So don't discuss what you want to do with everybody. You got to put yourself in the right circle and then start, you know, like, you know exactly what I mean.
Yes,
so
I do.
In the right circle. Don't tell just anybody, even if it's a relative, because sometimes, you know, people are joy killers. And so, you know, that course, it talks a lot about that. And it talks about exactly what do you do on your lunch break? You know, how do you define what it is that you can do, like just freakishly well, that you can turn into profit. And so I take you from from the very start to the very end. And then, and even for people who don't think they have enough time, I have time management for the cubicle slave, you know, that as well. So all of those are going to be available, you know, early 2019. And I'm just so super excited about it, because I got everything, you know, exactly how I want it. You know, you're always going to make some change and improvements.
Right.
But now it's just looking so good. And it has like my signature, you know, personality on it. That's what I love most about it. It's me. It's me giving to those who I want to serve. So I can give you
living your best life is what it is, and showing others that they can have that too.
Exactly. Because I'm having this conversation, you know, in my home office. I don't have to worry about anybody calling me saying, you know, well, you need to be here. Why aren't you here? You know, you didn't punch in this and that. You know, you got to come back at this time. I don't have to worry about that. I work from home. And so that right there is a dream come true.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more on that one.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll get all those links up, and as they become available, we'll post them to the YouTube channel as well, and I'll be sharing those as well. I want to thank you so much, Bridget, for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with everybody on Outside the Box with Sherri. And if anybody else is watching this and thinks that this is a great platform for them to showcase how they step outside the box, live outside the box, are a lunch break warrior or whatever, hustler, whatever you want to call it. If that's you, I encourage you to reach out to Bridget. And how can they find you on Facebook if they want to follow what you're doing? Do you have a business page that you want to share?
Yes, you can either go to Lunch Break Hustler and become a member, or you can find me at Bridgett Renay. That's BRIDGETTRENAY.
Okay.
Yes. Also BridgettRenay.com, where you'll see everything, and include the first two books that I wrote, all the drama,
Oh. I have to say the Whitney Houston series story has really stuck with me. So I appreciate you so much, and I look forward so much to our collaborations that we're going to have in 2019 and all through the Run Conference. I'm super excited about that. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate how much you share with others to help others. That's really means the world to me, and I love that you think outside the box, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. You are so welcome.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.